Hello, good afternoon. It's Brandon White, your local journalism initiative hire for the Ronge area with NBC News. Today's video is about choices and confusion. It's also about the many sides to a choice, and in a way the collateral damage that can happen in states of confusion. Now, this video is going to be a bit long because it includes 6 interviews. So if you are a stakeholder from one of these in particular, I have no problem with you skipping around. Feel free to check out the description of the video in YouTube, where there will be timestamps to the different interviews if one is of particular interest to you. Today's video is about the contentious issue of check stops and public health orders around travel in northern Saskatchewan. If you watch the video, you'll come to know that Ronge in northern Saskatchewan has been quite a contentious place for this issue. NBC wanted to see the other sides of this debate, and so we talked to a multitude of people in this video. In today's video, you're going to hear from 6 different persons. 3 on the government side and 3 on the citizen side. Now, the WHO and our own Canadian government say that elders and the immune compromised are those most at risk to COVID-19. In today's video, you'll hear from a representative of both of those demographics, an elder and someone from the area with an immune compromised situation. You'll also hear from a local citizen who started a petition asking the Ronge Council to rethink its exemption from these travel bans. On the government side, you'll hear from Councilman Jordan McPhail, who stood against the decision to be exempt from these travel bans. You'll also hear from Mayor Ron Woytowich of the Ronge Council. Finally, you will hear from MLA for the Cumberland region, Mr. Doyle Vermette. We hope that you enjoy this stakeholder roundup of this contentious issue. NBC feels it's important to know the human impact of these important civic choices. Hello, and thank you for joining me. It's just after 2 p.m. outside the Ronge Town Council chambers, as you can see here. Now, what's going on inside is a special meeting for the council and the Minister of Government Relations, Lori Carr. Now, it is a public-facing meeting. A few people from the community I did see go in. What are they talking about in there? A lot of people are wondering that. When asked about that, a councilman from Ronge said that they were looking for clarity around the options involved with the travel ban that was announced last week. Now, for those of you that don't know, we've had several outbreaks in northern Saskatchewan, and that necessitated the Premier, Scott Moe, to make a distinction between the NAD, the northern half of the province, and the southern half of the province when it comes to opening up the economy. Last week, a large group of northern mayors petitioned the government to make this distinction and to close a lot of those northern communities. Shortly after, the town of Ronge submitted a letter to the government asking to be exempt from these travel restrictions.
Yesterday, the Mayor of Laloche and a number of other northern leaders requested further restrictions on travel in northern Saskatchewan, specifically requesting restrictions around non-essential travel between communities and that travel be prohibited. So our Minister of Government Relations spoke to, as I said, a number of northern leaders yesterday, as well as a number more today. And as a result of those conversations today, we are ordering that non-essential travel between northern communities is now prohibited. This is in addition to the previous restriction on non-essential travel, both in and out of northern Saskatchewan. The communities of Ronge and Stony Rapids have been exempted from these particular orders, and that is at the request of those community leaders. Our government is also providing $370,000 to northern communities to support these new travel restrictions. $350,000 will be provided directly to the New North organization, the Northern Communities Association, to help staff and to maintain the checkpoints that are in place.
They, at no time before, during, or after, have released a public-facing statement to citizens of Ronge about why this exemption was taken. We're going to hang out here and try to talk to a councilman to see if this decision will be reversed and when. For now, we are left waiting until this coming Wednesday when Council will talk about the issue at their budgetary meeting. A lot of residents are left asking, why wait so long?
Yeah, my name is John Halkett, and I live on the reserve and between Bellis Point and Far Reserve area.
And how long have you been a resident?
Oh, probably 62 years.
So you definitely have lived through some stuff in terms of the big fires that happened and evacuations and stuff like that. How does the what's going on today make you feel versus some stuff you've seen in the past?
The evacuation?
Yeah.
That was back around 4 years ago, I think.
Yeah, are you getting flashbacks from what's going on now, or does this feel different?
I was part of the evacuation. I drove around and, we had to register.
Mm-hmm.
So we went south, just me and my wife, and we stayed in PA for a while, and then down to Saskatchewan to check on my grandchildren and my son and dad. We went east. We sort of traveled around all that time. Didn't really stay in one place.
It's a bit different now with what's going on. Hey, you can't leave. It's the opposite.
Yeah, it's totally different now. You can't really go anywhere. You're stuck. You're stuck at home.
Mm-hmm. We're all stuck at home. We're all participating. But how does the town of Ronge's choice to leave the town wide open to other travelers make you feel? That's kind of the opposite of what we're doing, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we're in a situation now where it's some people want to get things going and, trying to get back to what they used to do, sort of look at it from that end and not really considering that this pandemic can kill you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a matter of time that somebody will bring it into our communities, and it can create havoc. Because right now, as I drive through town, I still see people, bunching up and not really adhering to the what has been implemented to try and keep us safe.
Do you think it sends a message when the town says that the border's open? Does that send a message for people in town that they can be out doing stuff like that? Like, do you think they wouldn't be out if the town said this is more serious?
Yeah, personally, I think, from my point of view, is that for me it's way too early for things to start opening up in a fast pace. And try and get back to, like I said before, the normal state they were in before.
You mean economy, like money, when you say that, yeah? Yeah.
Yeah. And the way it is right now, like if you look east of the province, in the northern part, far north, it's that right now they are in a desperate situation. And there's already been a few deaths and quite a few people infected.
Mm-hmm.
And this, like I said before, this can kill you. This coronavirus can kill you, and it's like putting, like if your cabin is too hot, and you keep you're adding more wood into the stove, and it's going to get real hot. And how do you cool it down? It's by working together as a community and seeing eye to eye and to make sure everybody's safe.
Mm-hmm. That's a very good metaphor. I like that a lot. How you're an elder. Can I ask what's your age, sir?
Aye?
Can I ask how old you are? Is that okay?
I'm 62, but I work as a in-school elder at Bowes Point Elementary School.
Awesome.
So
are you worried about your own health or the health of your friends or family?
Well, mostly I'm worried about the health of all the children and my community, I guess, because we're not used to this. It is something new, and it could it could kill us. And by opening up the community, even if the reserve was decided to open up, and the town and the village didn't want that. It was, you're still inviting something that will eventually take a few lives, or people are going to get sick.
So the Lac La Ronge Indian Band, your band, has been very proactive in terms of finding money for members so that they don't have to work unnecessarily and be at a risk, and getting groceries and things delivered. The Indian Band has consistently been ahead of other governments in providing these things, including the lockdown of all of their 6 communities throughout the north. They were ahead of the curve. So I'm wondering how it makes you feel as somebody who band is doing everything they can, but then the nearby communities are totally just kneecapping all their efforts by staying open. I'm wondering, you've been in town for, you said 50 or 60 years. Have you seen in the past other examples where the band goes one way and the town goes another?
What I see is that the band, I think, have always looked at their people first as much as they can. They cannot please everybody, but they try hard. And we as a community, I think, have come together many times to try and tackle situations that where people come first. And I think we've learned to work together as a unit throughout these years as the band grew. And the other thing, too, is we look at things from the First Nations perspective in terms of traditional-wise. Like before this, we knew it was coming this way to northern Saskatchewan. That the young people had lit sacred fires in each of the reserves, and by the direction of elders. And La Ronge had one here, and Sucker River, and also Little Red and Hall Lake. And the reason for that was to ask for protection from the virus that was heading our way. So we did that. They did that through the health services and knowledge keepers, and at the same time teaching the young people about our traditional way. And I believe Stanley Mission had one over there too. I'm not quite sure on that. But we went that direction too, to ask for help from the First Nations perspective, traditional-wise. So that way too, we were sort of preparing for this situation. And but we do keep on praying, and Now, what is happening, especially on the east side of northern part of Saskatchewan, what they're going through right now, I know, we can feel for them, and to sort of like the economy will rebound, like if our accounts start depleting, there are ways of helping one another. Already there are people, even to me, they're bringing stuff. They're feeding us the wild game, and we try to look after each other, and in any way possible. And because if things get worse, and we know, we're sort of prepared for that. We have our traditions to go back on, and I'm sure people are willing to feed anybody that needs help at this moment in any way possible. And it brings out the good in everybody to try and survive the situation. So the economy will rebound later, and in the meantime, we should try and stay low and make sure that everybody's safe, and especially the children and the elders and the young people are the ones that are kind of hard to control right now. And
yes,
with the many people, well, not many, but some people turn to either alcohol and drugs to sort of try and forget the situation, or else the addictions play a big part in feeding the fire.
yes,
Sort of. And I believe the band had written a letter to the province to try and minimize the hours with the liquor sales in our area, but they were denied. So it's a tough situation right now.
definitely. I have to agree with you and reiterate something you just said, which I think was really wise. That the economy will come back, and the implication there is that our elders will not. And in First Nations culture, we have to remember a lot of the knowledge, a lot of the moral teachings, a lot of the stuff that gets passed down is through orality from our elders. So this virus represents a very serious attack on First Nations history, actually. And it's an obligation of people that are descendants of settlers to protect that history, because we wouldn't be here without the indigenous populations. So I hear you loud and clear, and I agree.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why I guess I'm sort of skeptic about this, about what the town has decided to go that direction, is that right now there are people suffering on the west side of our northern of our province, and one of my nieces just graduated from nursing, and she's stationed over there, and hopefully she stays safe, and also prayers to the people in those communities that are battling this virus.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope they take a second look.
Do you hope they take that letter back?
Yeah.
So we are going to wait outside here and try to get a comment. I don't know if the camera can see this, but I'm wearing my I suffer from MS sweater just for effect, because like so many in this community, I am immune compromised and at risk for this virus. So I would like to know if, I guess, what the council have to say to me as a proxy for vulnerable people and how they think this makes us feel. Stay tuned.
MLA Doyle Vermette, Cumberland constituency.
And we are talking today on May the 3rd. The reason why we are talking on Sunday is because of this politicized decision, and Mayor Woytowich and Council felt there was not enough consultation on this order to restrict travel, and so sent a letter requesting exemption from this public notice. Now, ironically, the town did not consult citizens or the adjacent town or band councils on this. Additionally, they have not put out a press release before, during, or after their letter was accepted. So what's your interpretation of why the town did this?
Well, I guess at the end of the day, the town will have to answer, to the partners, and I talked about the tri-community, the Ronge Indian Band, the village of Ronge, as well as they'll have to answer to the citizens that elected them and ask them to represent them and to do what's best for citizens of the surrounding area, but of course citizens of La Ronge who elect their mayor and council. In light of what we've heard, and that they've got an exemption, especially when we're dealing with COVID-19, and everybody's very concerned. People are scared. Our community members are doing their best, to do what they can do to protect us. And so far, count our blessings that, for our area at this point, we haven't had any announcement that there's been any confirmed cases that that I'm aware of at this point. That's where I'd say. So, I guess to see the new order come out by the health order that came out on the 30th, when that came out effective immediately, it come up with some strong, we'll say, conditions that would allow us to think, and I think leaders were asking for some strong conditions in the north to protect us with the COVID, the outbreaks where they're happening. So, you hope that this would protect many of our residents and try to keep the spread down. And I know communities that, have outbreaks don't want their, anyone else getting in any other community, any other families. So they're doing what they can do to protect themselves. And I give the frontline workers, the leadership in the north, they've been doing some great work and challenging. But then we had this order to come out that would strengthen and have some roadblocks. And we were hoping that those roadblocks would be manned 24 hours a day by, government assisting, whether, there are different ways they would do it. But unfortunately, in that, it looks like there was an exemption given to La Ronge, and I've heard different things, and I'm waiting to see. I've requested a copy from the town, the letter that they sent to the Premier on Wednesday, which was the 29th. They sent a letter to the Premier. I know they had a meeting on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. I'll wait and see once we can get the minutes. But at the end of the day, for me, what I think I would be wanting to see as the local MLA is, the government coming together with the tri-community to say, okay, the government needs to get this right and they need to fix it. It's wrong. When you have Ronge and you have the band doing a joint letter to the Premier asking that there be the restrictions and not giving any exemption to the town of Ronge so that non-residents of the NSAD line can come into La Ronge. That's very troublesome for a lot of people. They're really nervous and scared because you don't know if they're coming from Alberta, if they're coming from down south, has anybody been exposed, and they can come right straight up to La Ronge. People are very concerned about giving an exemption like that. And I've heard residents who have called me. I've seen a petition being started. So I've seen people really concerned and asking the government, the province of Saskatchewan, to get it right and come back and deal with this. They need to work this out with the tri-communities, and I'm hoping that the tri-community here will get together and the province will hear the letter that's gone to the Premier, and he will, make it clear to, the ministers and those officials who would be dealing with this to say, you need to have a serious look at this, and you need to straighten this out and fix it so the residents aren't confused, aren't concerned, or aren't uncertain. And that's what I've seen, where I've seen the minister, Lori Carr, who previously wouldn't allow, I believe it was Regina and Gravelbourg, they were trying to put in stronger conditions to protect their communities from COVID-19, and they were told that they have to follow the provincial mandate or the provincial rules that were set in place by the province. Here you have where we want stronger ones. They've given a community exemption. So they have created, the province has created, by granting this, to my understanding, the province has given a lot of uncertainty, and people are confused and very concerned. So I'm hoping they will reverse it. I know there's apparently, I've seen a notice, the town of Ronge is having a meeting, I think today at 2:00 with Minister Carr.
I'll be there.
I'm hoping from that meeting that they, in light of the letter that's gone to the Premier as well from the other two tri-community members, the Premier and the government will respond and say, hey, we have to get this right, and maybe we have to rethink this, amend it, do whatever they need to do to bring so people aren't confused and people feel secure in we're doing all we can as a province and as the North within the NSAD line.
Just really quickly, a few thoughts based on your reply there. I've heard a lot of people, both abroad and viewers of NBC, say that simply the fact that there's not a confirmed case in La Ronge is not a good reason. As Dr. Shahabs has said, the guidance from the province is to assume it's everywhere, not to be lax about it. So with the long asymptomatic period, 2 weeks of this condition, I think people are right in saying that just simply saying there's not a case in La Ronge yet is no good reason to leave it wide open for cases to emerge. And in fact, I would argue the optics of this is really difficult for the town of La Ronge because it leaves us open. And then if we do have, God forbid, an outbreak in La Ronge or the Tri-Council area, it creates an opportunity where critics of town council can very easily point to this as a policy decision to say, this created an opportunity for the virus to enter our communities. This created the opportunity for this outbreak. And how would the town ever argue that position because of this lax stance that they've taken? For what perspective gain? The only feedback we've got from town council so far is that it would impinge, at least from my understanding, is that it would impinge on tourism, cabins, people accessing the lake, and that tourism money that could come in. So the messaging I'm getting from our viewership is that this risk is not worth the possible damage to our vulnerable and the prospective damage to the town council. Thoughts on that?
Well, and that's, I want to make it that I'm very clear. I know that we're doing all we can to protect my family, and I know my loved ones. We want to make sure we're safe. I do not want COVID-19 affecting any of our citizens here in the North. We need to do all we can to keep it out. And by asking for, and I can only think by asking for an exemption, like I said, I don't have a copy of the letter to the Premier.
Right.
I don't have a copy of the motion that was made at Council. I'm going to be requesting it, and I know citizens of La Ronge are requesting it. Once we get to see that, we'll see exactly what was requested of the town. And if it was that they requested an exemption, well, then I guess the letter will be very clear. The motion will be very clear. To allow a non-resident of the NSAD line to come in here and come straight to La Ronge, giving them an exemption where all the rest of the communities are trying to make sure they're protecting their communities from COVID-19 coming in, to doing our best we can. And I know people are staying home and washing hands, and there's things that they're doing. They're following the order, and I give credit to a lot of our frontline workers. They're doing a great job. But if you're going to give an opportunity, and God forbid, as I said, that somebody was to come up here with this exemption saying, well, I'm coming to La Ronge, I'm exempt and come up, who's going to monitor them when they leave the checkpoint that they're coming straight to La Ronge? Once they get here, and that's been the issue I've heard from people. People have asked me, well, who would be monitoring them now that they have an exemption? Who would be monitoring those individuals when they come to the checkpoint? Say, well, I'm going to La Ronge, so they would let them in.
Probably no one.
And if they do that, who's going to monitor them, escort them to make sure they go straight to La Ronge and do their business and leave? They're not supposed to stop it. And I think people, and I think that's why the letter came out from the tri-community. But the La Ronge residents, and I've seen some of them, they're doing a petition. I've watched some of the Facebook posts, the concern that they have, saying if COVID-19, we can't allow it to come in. We can't allow anyone to bring it in that's not a resident. We're trying to protect our community, our tri-community, our north. And there's a way to do it. And giving an exemption to anybody. And the province, by doing this, whether it was requested or the province did it, we'll find out once we get the letter. To me, you're opening up, and you should have consulted, and everybody should have consulted with the tri-community. We're in this together, and I see the letter that the tri-community, I have a copy of that the two partners sent to the Premier, asking for, the restrictions, that were the exemptions, to be, I guess, reversed, because it's impacting their communities and their residents, and they don't want allow people that are from the out of the NASD line, NSAD line, to come in, go straight to La Ronge, and who knows, they could have the virus. I think for any leaders that are elected by their residents and the citizens, you better pay attention to them when they say to you they're very concerned. Because election, whether it's myself or anyone else, we get elected in by the people that we're supposed to represent, and they have a voice. And if we don't hear their voice and their concerns, when it comes to time for re-election, to say, have I served you right, you get your evaluation. And anyone, whether you're a town council, you're an MLA, you will get an evaluation, and the people will decide. And I think at that time, that's where people will be making their decision. And I've heard some pretty harsh comments from people, and I have seen some people are very upset. They're scared, they're confused, and they want some answers. And we need to make sure, and we're going to be reaching out to the province, I know, to ask for these blockades. They need to be up 24/7. Like, we can't have them not manned. They need to be manned 24/7. I think there's some problems, and it needs to be worked out. I'm seeing some reports and some news articles where some of the other blockades are not being manned 24 hours, and they're looking into that. Some of the local leaders are looking into what's going on. Everybody's understanding they were going to be manned, so we got to look into that. So I hope I've answered your question when it comes to the town of La Ronge with the order, and let's reverse it. And I'm hoping they had an opportunity here today, maybe to talk to the minister and work with the tri-community. I'm hoping they've reached out. I was fairly told they had a meeting, the tri-community. Hopefully they'll hear the concerns of the tri-community, the Premier will hear it, and the government will say, hey, we've got to fix this. People are very concerned, they're confused, and I hope the town of La Ronge will do the right thing, the citizens and the partners in the tri-community, and say, look, okay, maybe the request or whatever was done, we need to correct this. And I think they have an opportunity, and I hope they will do listen to the people, the citizens, and their partners in the tri-community. We're in this together, and one community, if you have an exemption, affects the other communities. That's very simple. We need to protect all of our tri-communities and all our residents.
Okay, so it is now more than 2 hours after the meeting commenced. Yes, I'm still here. Yes, I'm still representing you. Yes, I'm still waiting like you for answers. I've just had a few updates. It turns out that the Minister of Government Relations was not here today, but that they are hoping to speak with her on Wednesday. As well, some extra people just went back in because they've ended in camera, which did take about equal time with the portion that was not in camera, so about an hour of public facing and then an hour of in camera where press wasn't able to be there. So hopefully soon we'll get somebody coming out, and we'll be able to get an update for residents ahead of the choice on Wednesday in terms of whether or not they're going to rescind this. Thanks for waiting. Previously today, we spoke with a local elder and the provincial MLA for the Cumberland constituency, Doyle Vermette. My next guest is a local citizen of the La Ronge area, of La Ronge, and a young mother, and also an immune-compromised individual. Welcome to the show. I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Well, first of all, I'm flattered you called me young. My name is Kayle Brown, and I am 31 years old, and like Brandon said, I reside in La Ronge.
How long have you lived here in La Ronge?
I've lived here practically my whole life. I think I left for 2 years to go to Prince Albert to further my education, and then I actually came back because of my diagnosis. I wanted to be closer to family, closer to the lake, and things that I enjoy.
Right. And you you mentioned the word diagnosis, and part of the reason why Kayle and I are speaking and why we are better friends today than when we went to high school together is that we are both diagnosed with the same condition. We both have multiple sclerosis, which is a condition, a degenerative condition in the brain that is very sensitive to many different things in your life in terms of causes of inflammation. Basically, you have to learn your body as a temple and try to keep it very clean so that you don't have any relapses. Kayle also was just going through a difficult period in her treatment and has transitioned to a new drug. So what are you going to be put on, Kayle, and when is that going to happen?
Well, what I'm starting is actually 2 days from now, not tomorrow, but the next day, and that will be called Ocrevus. And I'm pretty weary, but I feel like I'm at a point where something's got to give. So, like, I had an infusion 2 years ago. It was an annual infusion called Lemtrada. So if it's 2020, I guess 2018 was my second round, as they call it, and 2017 was my first round. Now, it did good for a while. It was supposed to delay progression, and it did good for about a year. I went 1 year without any disease-modifying drugs, therapies, however they word it, and it was good. But then my MS started being very aggressive. So I went for an MRI. It was last December around Christmas time. I had phoned my neurologist, and she said, okay, well, I said, I think my body's going through an attack. I'm just not feeling good. So she said, okay, well, let's get you down, get an MRI done, and see where you're at. So we did that, and we found out that it was very aggressive, and then I had a high dose of steroids to try and stop it in its tracks, kind of thing. I don't know if it has fully stopped. I've got a lot of health things going on right now. That actual infusion caused me to have an overactive thyroid. And the reason I say this is because I've done research, and there's a lot of people that have had Lemtrada and that are now dealing with having an overactive thyroid. And that stems to Graves' disease. Hashimoto's are two of the possibilities. Some people get their thyroid removed, and then they got to go around with finding the right medication. So I don't know exactly where I'm at right now. I'm talking with a specialist, and we're doing monthly blood work, and I'm on some medication for that as well, trying to get that under control. And I just kind of lost my train of thought where I was going with that.
That's all good. Part of the thing with having a brain illness, as we both know, is that sometimes you lose your train of thought, and that's okay. We're both here to help keep each other on track. For those that don't know, the treatment course for MS, Kayle mentioned a disease-modifying therapy, is an immune suppressor. I'm actually on Ocrevus, the drug that Kayle will be starting in 2 days, and it's an incredible new drug. Very effective. Like I was telling Kayle, very good results, especially for people with aggressive MS. So I'm very happy that she's being put on such a good drug, but it's also very new and very expensive. And it is knocking out, we have great coverage here in Saskatchewan, thank you, but it does knock out your immune system moderately. So these different treatments have different levels of impact on your immune system. And because this drug is so good and so effective, it does have a moderate impact on my and on Kayle's immune system. And what that means is that it's a cool drug in that you only have to get it every 6 months. You do a drip, IV drip, but then for 6 months you have a suppressed immune system. So it kind of puts Kayle and myself and other people, many people take immune suppressing drugs, even for rheumatoid arthritis or many different things. So for people that have a modified immune system, we are exactly those people at risk for having a bad time with this COVID infection. Has the MS clinic or your doctors told you that you need to be particularly careful or just with this drug or given the situation?
Yeah, well, the way that they explained it to me is that it's attacking B cells in my body, or in my immune system, sorry, whereas before it was attacking different things. But this one goes after that, and it doesn't eliminate the ability for them to rejuvenate themselves. So over time, but like I said, over time, right? And we don't know when these outbreaks are going to happen, if they're going to happen. People are talking about a second wave, and there's so much uncertainty. And with the person with MS, we have so much uncertainty in our lives already. Our quality of lives are the same as other people's. We all have our own trails to cross, I guess. I don't know, but
everybody has a portage they got to make, eh?
yeah, exactly. And I used to be really, really good at that, but unfortunately, MS weakens us, and there's a lot of doubt in our day-to-day lives. Like tomorrow I could wake up not knowing if I'm able to walk or not. And like people with MS, they already have enough stuff that they're dealing with, and this uncertainty of whether or not we're going to be safe, whether or not our families are going to be safe, whether or not elders are going to be safe, whether or not the hospital can handle an influx of patients. Like from what I've heard, I thought there was 2 ventilators there, but from what I've heard, there's only 1 ventilator there. What are we going to do when there's 5 people, 10 people, 100 people, you know?
Should mention, it was, although it was reversed in a majority vote, the amendment to this exemption was put forward by Councilman Jordan McPhail. So have to give a shout out there to Alderman McPhail for standing up for the community and for vulnerable people like Kayle and myself. We may not pay the most taxes, but we certainly live here as well, and we do want to live here for many more years.
Yes, much appreciated. Thank you for all the work you're doing, Jordan. Hi, Courtney. Want to come say hi to the camera really quick?
Hi.
Want to say hi really fast? You can talk.
Who is that? I can't see you.
Come up here.
Oh, hi. Wow, you look like your mom.
Everybody says that about me.
Oh, well, you're not adopted. We know that.
What are your thoughts on COVID?
I think it'll go away in summer.
In summertime?
Yeah, my birthday.
Your birthday? We sure hope so, eh, my baby?
When is your birthday? I'm going to mark that on the calendar as the COVID-free day.
The second day of summer.
It's okay. No worries. Councilman, anybody have a message for the community? I've waited 2 hours.
Stay safe. Stay safe. There's a few changes coming. I've got somewhere to be right now, so I can't start.
No public announcement at all about this.
There will be. There will be absolutely public.
Bottom line is the town had requested an exemption so that people could still come to Larange and do whatever. And that was the original cause of the meeting today. And I guess they wanted to have a meeting with the minister over this because they wanted it to continue.
And you did not.
Oh no, sorry.
No, there's just a total, I should have led this by saying, as a caveat, everybody understands how difficult a little bit. This is a difficult position, and we really appreciate you doing your job. I'm not trying to villainize you, but this is new information that there was a division there amongst the...
Oh, there was, and I'm in a hell of a position because I happen to be the mayor.
Yes.
And as mayor, I'm not supposed to have a position. I'm supposed to whatever council has decided, and that is the position. So I have to tell you that council had decided a week ago to be different and to allow people to come use the highway to come to Larange, even though they weren't allowed anywhere else.
So has there been any movement today on rescinding that difference of opinion and going to...
I think, and I believe that one motion has basically closed that, so that now we are following the provincial rules.
But that will be decided Wednesday, is that?
No. That amendment that Jordan made to that motion basically negated that first part of the motion and said that we're following the provincial order. and we're not a special case anymore.
So effective now, we're following the provincial order.
That's the way I read it.
And how does that make you feel? Are you
I'm
approve of that?
happy.
You're happy about that?
You know,
Fair enough. But in terms
but I
of,
want to tell
in
you
terms of
something
its goals-
honestly. The first time this came before council, I voted in favor with the rest.
Really?
I did. I did not, with all honesty, we talked about the effect on Ronge, and the discussion was about what was happening on the west side, and it shouldn't affect us. And it was quick. The motion was made, and without much discussion, I think the vote was 6-1. And I did have reservations. I admit that. There was this whole discussion about sending a letter to the minister right away, and I did talk to council. I said, let's wait till tomorrow, let's get some feedback, see whether we're going to do it. They agreed, so I voted in favor. And I went and told my wife that night, and 10 minutes later, boy, was I in shit with her, because she said, you stupid, why did you do that? And I realized I was wrong, and then I tried to change it a week ago, or Wednesday, and that's when I found out I'm not allowed to make motions, because I'm the mayor. So you got to sit with it,
Well,
But we did what was done on the information at the time.
nobody expects you to be perfect, and we all learn as we go on.
Oh, but I try. I mean, I don't try to be perfect. I know I'm not. But I honestly, I kicked my butt. Like I said, 10 minutes after I got home, I knew I was wrong.
So I don't want to take too much of your time, but we have decided to go with the province's guidance, and we're going to be more or less in line with the rest of the NAD, save for Stoney, and we probably will have informative checkpoints at some point soon.
Yes.
Okay.
And honestly, when you seriously, when you read the order, it doesn't affect us that much.
No, like it seemed amongst us we were talking, anything that could be justified as essential can be.
Yes.
So,
I mean, honestly, my own concern is, if somebody from, Beauval, I never even thought of them, but if somebody from La Loche comes across here, are they going to infect us? But, I mean, we can leave. We can drive, we can leave here now and go to Saskatoon all we want. It's people from Saskatoon can't come up here. So, to me, that's no big deal. We're not really affected.
well, we do have 60% of the active cases in Saskatchewan in the NAD.
Yes.
And we have the most concerning outbreak in Canada, according to one journalist. So
Yes.
I would say that it almost has changed. Whereas we were lucky before that we had so little cases. Now the North is the focus of COVID.
Yes.
So
Well, it's because of forget about the distance. Yes, we have few people, and we're talking 400 kilometers and everything else. That's true. But we're also that much further away from all kinds of help. And maybe we've got this false sense of security in Ronge because we're so lucky. We got the drugstores, we got the doctor.
meanwhile, we have one ventilator. We need to remember that, right?
And we also, yes, we're so happy, but realistically, and this is like my wife pointed out to me, we may be safe, but if we allow people to come up here, we may not be, So.
All right. Take too much of your time. Thank you for clarifying. I know it's not easy right now, and there's a lot of confusion. So my intent was just to help people in the community understand, because there's been a lot of confusion. So thank you for your voice.
Thank you to all three of you.
So welcome. Thank you for joining me digitally here this late afternoon, early evening. We've got Cheryl Jeffries. Thanks for being with us, Cheryl.
Hi, Brandon.
Cheryl and I just met recently because of the situation in Ronge with COVID-19 and the blockades or lack thereof. I became friends with Cheryl because she created a change.org petition to voice her concerns as a taxpaying member of the community about how Well, I'll let you say it yourself, Cheryl. Why did we create this petition?
I created this petition for the health and safety of our community. I felt we weren't getting answers as to why the town council had gone and asked for an exemption. I just found it funny while we're fighting this coronavirus, and they would open us up to that instead of trying to keep us safe and limiting the people who are coming and going from this community.
And yeah, no, I agree with you. Like personally, myself, my family, and a lot of people I know have been locked down for weeks, for months, over a month. So this decision to kind of be open for business kind of punch in the gut a little bit, flies in the face of all the work that we've been doing in the last couple of weeks. Is that kind of the feeling you had as well?
It is, and I can't see an end to it if we keep allowing people in and out. And it worried me when I was told we have 12 hospital beds and 1 ventilator, and I thought, so if there's 2 people needing a ventilator, someone's got to decide who gets that ventilator. I don't think that's fair to our community, and to let other people in at this point when we can't handle our own region. I just thought it was silly, and I would have liked more clarification on the reasons why they did that, and nobody was getting those answers as to why they would want to keep the road open.
I really like this wording on the introduction of the petition, which is hosted by change.org. You said, this virus doesn't move, people do. I thought that was really succinct and powerful language. Do you have anybody, I mean, we're all affected by this, but do you have anybody in your immediate family or your extended family that you are particularly worried about that motivated this action?
Well, I have a dad who works in essential services. So, I mean, he is sent into those areas that right now are experiencing the COVID pandemic. I have a mom who has some concerns, right? That if she was to catch it, it could be serious for her. And so with an essential service working dad and a mom who is more susceptible to this virus, I just can't see why we would open it up for other people to come in and potentially bring that in. We already have enough essential services that are coming and going from these parts of the province. I just think that it would be silly to not close those borders to those people so that we're lessening our chances of bringing it in.
And refresh my memory. I mean, things are happening so fast. I feel like I'm not sleeping very well. Was this petition just yesterday? I'm looking at it right now. And the last time I refreshed the page, we have 465 signatures. Was this created yesterday, or do we have almost 500 in a day?
Yeah, it was created yesterday afternoon. Just based on discussion with other people and the articles that were coming out. And I just thought that the town office had to know. I wanted the town office to know that some of us aren't happy and weren't happy about that exemption. And it kind of sounded like they backroaded a few people. And I wanted them to know that people weren't feeling safe and that they would have liked to have seen that that travel ban. And so I thought some people are scared to voice their opinions. Some people don't know how they can let others know that they're disappointed. And so a few of us talked about doing a petition, and I guess I was the one who spoke out for the community. And it could have went either way for me, honestly. It could have been like people wanted to keep the exemption. I didn't know what I was really getting into when I did do the petition. I thought maybe, I might get 50 signatures, but I also might get 500.
No, I think it's a really great solution, especially with the provincial restrictions on people not being able to congregate or more than 10 people. So how can an old-fashioned protest even happen? I want to read just a few comments from this petition. I just want to read a little bit of those sentiments. I won't mention the names, but I think some of them do deserve to be heard. So this is from a resident. Our children, grandkids, I think there's a Cree or Dene word I'm not going to brutalize there, and our dear elders, the most vulnerable. My mother, she's 84 and has health issues in the community. The town of La Ronge has no right to veto over Air Ronge and the Lac La Ronge Indian Band. So that's just talking about how we're a tri-council, and 2 out of 3 said they wanted this provincial order, and 1 out of 3 didn't, and we went with 1 out of 3. It's kind of a weakest link scenario. And then finally, not a resident, but my mother lives in La Ronge and is at a high risk for this disease. Keep her and others safe from those who feel this is not as dangerous as we have been told it is. So I just wanted to give a voice to some of those people that maybe felt they haven't had one. And it appears there's, I really like that you said you were open to whatever came of it, even if people were supporting it, you were open for that. But looking across all the signatures, I mean, that is a bias, but it appears that a lot of people have things to say about it. So I applaud you making this. And we met outside of the meeting that town council had today. I know you couldn't stay,
Right.
But I wanted to catch you up on the result of that meeting, which is super fresh and hasn't really been communicated that much. So it's my understanding that the town council looked at an amendment to this exemption, and they actually voted on it. And that, this is a little bit confusing language, but the exemption from the exemption did pass. So with a majority vote. So what that means is that the exemption has been rescinded. And the communication that I got from from a councilman was that the public pressure was a large part of this reversal. So I just wanted to inform you that partially because of this action that you've taken, we've been successful in reverting that decision. You're so happy you're breaking up. I'm speechless too.
Really happy.
Okay.
I just wanted to give the voice to the people. I wanted them to get a say. That is why these people are here. That's why they work for the town. They are supposed to be representing us as community members, and considered now that people have actually voiced their concerns, that they've reconsidered that. That's a big thing.
Yeah, I had to call you as soon as I could. I know that we were planning on talking anyway, but really, really great news. And it's great when government, even municipal government, is reflexive in response to that citizen input. So a victory for you, for the petition, and for the town's safety. Now, I will say that some details aren't resolved, including I asked the councillors to relay this themselves so that you could have heard it from them, but they declined, and that they're working on some press release. So this is me telling you, and I guess the community, but the town still has to do that. Now that you know that it's been reversed, will you take down the petition, or what do you think?
I will take down the petition once that media release has been done.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to hear that it's been publicly announced before I take down the petition.
I understand. I think that's in line with why the petition was created. As well, there isn't any details yet about whether the staffing of it would be 24 hours or whatever. So it's still super fresh, but I think so there's a reason to keep it up, I guess.
Yes,
we're definitely on the right road.
Yes.
But I had to share that with you because that's evidence of your good work and your good civic duty there, creating a place where people could have their voice be heard in this weird quarantine where we're not allowed to really voice ourselves. So a huge win there,
Well, and I thank you for helping me while going to the meeting and being able to let me know what that outcome is.
Well, better together. Thank you again for making this petition. I'm an immunocompromised person, so I really value community solidarity, and I will keep watching it to see how high that number gets. We're not too huge of a community here in La Ronge, so it's interesting to see signatures in the hundreds. It's always very, very interesting to see that kind of call out. So it seems like you've hit a vein here, and congratulations on your successful petition.
Thank you for the good news. I appreciate that.
No worries. We'll be in touch.
All right. Thank you.
Comes out in our bodies. Yep. So how are you feeling? How are you feeling now that you know that the town of La Ronge has rescinded that exception and that we will fall in line, have some educational roadblocks and stuff? Are you feeling better about everything, or?
Yeah, I'm very hopeful. I mean, I'm still nervous if something doesn't go through, and I'm also worried about, like, is it going to be 24 hours, 24/7? I think it should be.
It should be, but we don't really know that. There's no press release, so we don't know any details. And as well, we're seeing reports that in the change of hands between community and prevent the province or firefighters and stuff handling those check stops, like in Beauval, they're not being manned 24 hours a day. So those are fair questions. And in the absence of public statements by the town and by government, then we those remain unanswered.
Hello?
Hello, good evening. Is this Jordan?
It is, yeah.
Hello, Councilman McPhail, I should say. Good evening. Thanks for taking my call at 9:18 p.m. Working hard, burning the midnight oil. I just got off an interview with Kayle Brown, and basically I'm looking at the human interest side. I guess you could say the collateral damage of confusion.
Yeah.
And we are both just so appreciative that you put forward the amendment and that it actually passed. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I guess I just wanted to, in documenting what's been going on, I wanted to give an opportunity to talk to council or somebody from council. And as anybody who watches the video will see, it's been really difficult. I know everybody's really, really stressed and very tired and making some difficult calls with not the best information always. But I wasn't able to talk with anybody really from council. I talked to the mayor, but he really expressed that he was quite powerless in this. So I wanted to give somebody from council an opportunity to speak and say where they see it coming from. So I appreciate you having the time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm glad that you reached out and happy to answer any questions. Ultimately the vote did pass with a majority, and I think that it took quite a bit of coercion. But at the end of the day, I believe that that we got to where we had to get to, and we did the right thing as a council.
Any comment on I only asked that question because the amount of time involved for that special meeting was so long. Like, I guess you've just got a lot of stuff going on, but like an hour council and then an hour in camera. I was just wondering if it was contentious or not, but I'm thank you for the answer.
Yeah, no, like I said, there was just a lot of information that needed to be shared amongst all councillors, and I guess it was more so along the feelings of, what was the most relevant and pertinent data and what we should be taking into consideration as a municipality on a go-forward basis, and just, kind of keeping that debate, I guess, professional and pointed was the main reasons of it taking longer. Is we had lots of motions, as anyone that was there the first couple of minutes, there was lots of ideas of how we were to get this forward, and we just wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page, or as close to being on the same page coming out of that.
Mm-hmm. I did read, I know you've been very kind of had a different position on this checkpoints issue since it came up, and I read your original post where you anticipated the meeting to be about the details. So, like, how is this checkpoint going to be staffed? Will it be 24 hours, stuff like that? Were any of those details talked about? Is that what made the meeting so long, or do we know those details?
Well, we still haven't received exact word on how it would be resourced, and we, as of the time of this phone call, we're still exempt from the travel restrictions because a new public health order hasn't come out, right? So we're still waiting to see what the province will do with our new request to be included in the travel restrictions.
That's a fair point.
And I do know that part of the things that we will have to put into consideration is once these check stops are established, how will they be resourced? And, all of the same logistical questions that we had before will still be there.
Mm-hmm.
But we will just need to know, that's kind of what part of the motion that we put forward was. We wanted to have the consultations with our regional partners, including ourselves, at the meeting on where these check spots will be, what data will be shared amongst the municipalities, and how they'll be ultimately resourced. Yeah, no, I was, with the original motion, it was basically the clarifications on what these checkpoints would look like. And I think just logistically, it was who would we be allowing through that community check stop, and under what circumstances would somebody be allowed through either direction, and those questions will still need to be answered. And with the original motion that was put forward, it did not include the travel ban or the travel restriction put on the town of Orange. So I felt it absolutely necessary to make sure that if we were voting on anything, that it be amended to make sure that we were also including what the stakeholders, and I believe a majority of the stakeholders in our community have called for over the last couple of days, especially through reaching out via email and social media and calling me directly. I've certainly received a lot of thank yous for being on the right side of the motion on Tuesday and for continuing the fight here right up until Sunday. So, ultimately the credit goes to all the frontline workers and the frontline people that are, the local heroes, as they keep calling them, that are maintaining their social distance and keeping our community safe. They're staying engaged in our local politics, and they're reaching out when they think we need to be doing better for them.
I just have one final kind of like sentiment or question, and it comes kind of as a grassroots thing from something that I've intuited, but also a lot of our viewership from NBC has echoed throughout just the last 5 days or whatever that this has gone on, and it's around information sharing. I know that and we know that things are changing so fast, and we don't always have access to the best information. And you guys are just making the best choice you can with what you're given. But a lot of what I've been reporting on and the human impact is the lack of transparency around these decisions at the municipal level. There's been no, we did a flip-flop. We asked for exemption and then asked for exemption from the exemption, but at no point was any formal press release issued from the town of Orange. Not about wanting to be exempt, not about being exempt, not about the flip. This is what I wanted to talk to some of the other aldermen about, that the people of Orange, we very much want to support like the democratic government stuff, but when there's not good communication to the body politic, the people that elected those people, we lose confidence in their judgments. So is there anything in the Municipalities Act or anything that would help people get more information, or is there any mandate that these decisions have to be communicated in a timely manner?
I know that any of the minutes that we have and all the discussions that we have, all those are in-camera discussions. All of the results of that come after our rise and report. So anything that we do as a municipality is available within the minutes. And in regards to the press releases, this is something that I have heard. I've passed the message on to our administration to make sure that if the easiest way to keep people I guess calm and to keep people from worrying is to share as much information as we can with the public. And I echo what you said earlier about maintaining transparency and accountability of local officials, which is ultimately the reason why I felt it necessary to reach out to the public and let them know where I stand and where I stood, because there was no press release that did state what exactly happened, and I gave my best recollection of what that last week was, and made sure that I was being accountable to the people that put me where I am.
Yeah, like obviously probably small town municipalities didn't write pandemic plans into their stuff, so I'm not surprised that there's not like a framework for how to communicate this stuff, but yeah, it's just there is a real collateral damage impact to people's like psyche when they're not sure what's going on in a pandemic, right? And there's not like any form of top-down guidance. As well with the minutes, like I hear you, but then like as a civics reporter, I'm aware that those minutes can take, like sometimes they're not up for a month. So there's a hole in our communication here that we need to address. I don't know.
Yeah, I do know that the minutes do have to be passed at the special meeting and whatnot that have happened between. We usually put those into a regular meeting of council, which I do understand from a public standpoint of needing what's on paper in front of them. That those might not be available for a couple weeks. But as far as any of the discussion points that have happened publicly, any of the members of the public are more than welcome to contact me, and I'll give them the best recollection of what happened at the meeting, what decisions were being made, and as one of the promises I made, I record the votes on any major decision that the town of Ronge has, because it's ultimately people need to know where their councillor stands when it came to these tough decisions. And when you go into like the press releases and whatnot, we do a weekly press release, which I do know is something that we are committed to continue to do. If the public would like more information than what we are currently giving, or any specific information, then they can certainly call the town of Ronge office, 306-425-2066. And they can, like I said, they can always reach out to councillors through the town of Ronge website, and we update the town of Ronge website with the most up-to-date information from the province as well.
I don't have any more questions, and I've taken enough of your time, but I really appreciate you putting a bow on this story, and putting some making people rest a little easier that their voices are heard in the community of Ronge. Really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And if there was any message I could send out with the community, it's just thank you for being on top of the ball and getting a hold of our local officials when they feel as though they need to be doing better for the municipality, and stay home, stay safe, and hopefully we can keep everyone in our region healthy and keep ourselves on a united front going forward.
Nice. Thank you so much, and have a great night, Councilman McPhail.